What's going on, everybody? We're back. Episode number 203 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight we're talking UFC Tampa, Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley. Incredible main event. Pretty good card in the aggregate. I think good betting card. If you like the show, please drop a like, subscribe. It would help us out a lot. And guys, I say it every week, but I'll say it again. FightNumbers.com. Doing a lot of great work there. That's from Pepe and Ozzy. They got the odds, the trends tool. They got the live odds tool. They've also got DFS projections from John Kelly. It's a great service, and for 30% off your first month, use the promo code CLUB CLUB. And yeah, guys, again, one more time, drop a like, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. We're gonna skip results for last week. It was a good week for me.
Good week
I
for
think
me
it's
as
pretty
well.
good week for you as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but things to do, people to see, and we got a card to break down here. If my sound's a little janky, I'm sorry. As you guys can see, I have a bit of a shit show, old school jank setup going on here today. Unfortunately, lads, I blew out my surge protector
Wow.
because my office is like freezing for whatever reason. The heat just doesn't go into my office, so I have a heater in there, but I also have my Xbox and three monitors all plugged into the surge protector, and I had everything running simultaneously the other day and just totally fucking blew it. So need to get a new surge protector before the new year. But until then, we're ready to go here. All right, guys. So first fight of the evening, we have got Piero Rodriguez taking on Josephine Knudsen. Current price, Knudsen, decent sized favorite. She's minus 230. Come back on Rodriguez plus 200. Legs, I'm going to grab a beer. You want to start here?
Sounds good. So this is one of the first big dogs that I actually played on the card. So I have one unit on Pierre at plus 195. To me, I just think it's a pretty close-ish competitive fight. I mean, I know on the feet, Pierre has definitely had a disadvantage. Josephine, obviously the better technical striker of the two. But I think Pierre definitely can land takedowns here, get solid top control, and again, win a decision here, winning 2 out of the 3 rounds via grappling. I think Josephine's got questionable takedown defense, and just questionable ground game in general. So I think plus 195 is a good play here.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. I'm going to bet Piera. I think it's a fairly obvious spot for her at the number. Josephine Knudsen, Knudsen? Is it
I
Knudsen?
think it's Knudsen.
Yeah, I can't tell. I feel like everybody's
I
got a
don't
different
know.
pronunciation here.
Yeah,
Josephine, at any rate,
right.
great striker. She's probably one of the better female striking prospects in the sport right now. But she's had two pretty dicey fights. One with Jacinta Austin, one with Julia Pilastri. Those fights were about a year apart, and they both featured the same thing: her being unable to stop takedowns and her having issues getting off of her back. It's not even that she's issues getting off her back. She just doesn't really have a get up game, at all. So I look at this fight and I feel like Piera is a slightly better wrestler than both. Maybe, I mean, she's going to be at a big standing disadvantage here with Josephine. Obviously, if Josephine can keep this upright, she's going to win the fight. Probably look value doing it. I'm just pretty skeptical that she's going to be able to keep it upright, though. Piera goes for takedowns every fight. She can be pretty physical. And when she gets her down, I think she's going to control her. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I favor Pierre or anything because the striking edge is big for Josephine, but I do think this price is wide. I feel like it should be more like minus 140, minus 150 on the Josephine side. So I'll probably have a unit on Pierre. I haven't gone yet. I'm just kind of monitoring the price, but I see it's plus 195 right now. That'll be eventually where I place my money. Moving on, we got Davey Grant taking on Ramon Tavares. Tavares making his second UFC fight, coming off a split decision victory against Sergey Cedi. Davey Grant fighting for the first time since he fought someone else on his card, Daniel Marcos, when he got robbed viciously in his own backyard. Was really awful. Current odds on this fight, Grant's minus 112, comeback on Tavares minus 108. And I've gone back and forth on this quite a bit. Because on the one hand, you got Davey Grant, who's far more experienced. He's fought the far better level of competition. He's probably the more well-rounded striker. He's the better grappler. All things that would say, play Davey Grant at this price, at a near pick 'em price. And I've considered it. But on the other side of that, you have Ramon Tavares. And, I don't really love Tavares, but he hits very, very hard. He's got good counters in the pocket. And Grant's a guy that, like, when he gets into in the pocket, he's there to be hit, man. We've seen it time and again. And I know he hasn't. Has he ever been KO'd? I don't think he has, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Yeah. So he's never been KO'd, but he got dropped bad by Martin Day, got hurt bad by Jonathan Martinez, obviously got hurt bad by Marlon Vera. can forgive that one. Got hurt bad, though. I'm trying to think. There's one more. But he's been hurt a lot, either way, is the point that I'm trying to make. Davy Grant's been hurt a lot. He's 39 years old, and he's fighting a pretty young guy who hits pretty hard and is pretty sharp on the counter, which makes me concerned for Davy here. And given the age disparity and the power disparity, it's not something I'm really looking to fade. But having said that, Davy is the better fighter everywhere, in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't really think I want to stand in front of it and risk the 39-year-old getting lamped. What do you think?
No, I'm pretty much the same thing. Like, to me, Grant here is like 55-60%. I don't feel super passionately about it. Again, I think he's
like the plus 120 Grant was pretty good, I think, but
right. But the pick'em Grant, I'm fine passing. Like, again, he, like you mentioned, he is the better fighter of the two. I think he can have grappling success here, but on the feet, it's honestly a bit of a mirror match, in my opinion. Like, both these guys pretty hittable. Both these guys have big power as well. It seems pretty dicey to me on the feet. Obviously, Grant is the better fighter of the two, like I mentioned, but I think it's more of a pick'em. So, yeah, to your point, the plus money was good, but fine passing on the pick'em.
Yeah, I agree completely. Moving on, we have a snoozer here. This is your first bathroom break spot of the card. We got Miranda Maverick taking on Jamie Lynn Horth. The current price, Maverick minus 600. Comeback on Horth, plus 425. What are your thoughts here, lads?
I think the only argument you could make for a Horth case would maybe be in the grappling. Because to me, in the striking, like, I know Maverick's not a great striker, but like, Horth is so slow. Like, I think Maverick can easily just touch her up on the feet. Like, I think it should be a very, very easy matchup for Maverick, just landing takedowns here.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I taped it yesterday. Obviously, Maverick being a big favorite, I put this fight off for a while. But
yeah,
I taped it,
here.
And when I came out of tape, I was like, fuck, I'm going to bet Maverick minus 350 to minus 400. That's like, she's like 90% here. And then I went to go look, and she was minus 600. So not betting minus 600 on her. I do think she's going to win this fight fairly comfortably, though.
So then, John, to that point, so the 3.5 for her is minus 165. What are your thoughts?
That's actually not terrible. That's not bad. I don't think she's gonna. I like Maverick's a better grappler than Petrovic by a large margin, in my opinion. Better wrestler, better top game, better jiu-jitsu. I don't see any. Yeah, I mean, Matt Cohen just said it in here. I mean, she just 30-27. Like Maverick, she's never winning a title. She's not as good as people, thought she was going to be. But she is, when she has a grappling advantage, she dominates. That's what she likes to go to, is her wrestling. And she's got a big grappling advantage in this fight. I don't think Horth's got the hardware to knock her out on the feet. And I don't think Horth has the wrestling or bottom game to keep this fight upright. I will be honest, I'm a bit tempted by the 3.5 you mentioned. I am a bit tempted by Maverick ITD. Oh, did we have a shot? Hold on. I'm a bit tempted by Maverick ITD in the plus 400 range, and I'm a bit tempted by the Maverick sub 2, sub 3 stuff. I know she's not a finisher historically, but I feel like this is the kind of fight where she really should find the finish here. And like sub 2, sub 3 is plus 1,400, plus 2,000. Like I don't mind it, honestly, especially if you think she's like I do, that she's like 85, 90%. That seems generous to me. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good place as well. Good mentions. Because I think again, large, like most of her massive favorite upside is with the grappling.
Yeah, I agree. She's gonna grapple. So, I'm almost 100% positive. So, I mean, if you actually, it's funny because that's what I actually went back to look for. She's grappled in basically every fight other than when she hasn't had a big grappling advantage. So, she's pretty reliable in that respect. Valen said we had a shot bet on the Macau card. I think that's right. What did we bet on?
Let me look at that real quick.
Did you write it down?
Let me look.
Or Valen, can you tell us what it was? The Macau card 2 cards ago, the middle of the night card.
Oh, I could find that once I look at that real quick, and I could easily.
We definitely had a shot bet on it. I just don't remember.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was the Zhao and Ricci. I didn't think it was, but it might have been.
Oh, you might be right about that.
It might be that.
I hope
because I think that was the only. I think that was our only
disagreement. It's gonna be me doing shots at that.
I know. I think that was our only disagreement. I think I said Yan easily just stuffs the grappling, has no issue, and yeah. But
fuck,
I might be wrong.
All right. I guess I'll let you take away the next fight, and I'll go get some liquor. From
I guess I could. Damn. Damn, he's calling you out on it too. Damn. All right, give me a second here. Let me pull this up.
So next fight, though, I'll let you take us away. I'm going to run and get my bottle
Yep.
of Fireball. We got Miles Johns taking on Felipe Lima. Current price, Lima minus 235. Come back on Johns, plus 200.
Yeah, so another super interesting fight and my second big dog of the card. So again, Miles Johns plus 195, a unit on that. To me, I mean, I think a lot of just people in general think Lima can push a pace here very easily. And to me, I think the power of Johns can definitely deter that, similar to what we saw in the Naimov fight. I mean, we saw Naimov pretty much on all three cards. We saw 1-1, 2-0 Naimov, and then 0-2 Lima, which the 0-2 Lima to me, I mean, just seems like a disgrace of a card. If you were actually watching that fight, I think it was 1-1 at worst. But to me, I think it's close on the feet. I think Johns, again, the power can definitely deter any volume from Lima. And I think Lima, and I think Johns here can land his own takedowns. I think it's just a competitive, again, similar to the first fight of the card. I think it's a pretty competitive fight, and we're getting Johns at plus 200. Ton of UFC experience as well.
Yeah, Valen asked how I felt when Ricci landed 0 strikes in round 1. That was, if we do like an end of the year show and we were doing worst bets of the year, that might be the one. Honestly, like that was fucking comedy. That fight. I didn't even discuss the card last week when I did the show for a reason. I was just like, there's no one needs to hear about this. No one wants to hear about this. Hold on, let me.
We're just gonna forget about this. Yeah, no.
All right. Cheers, Lags, to being right about a minus 200. You brat cunt.
Cheers to being a square, John.
Not wrong.
Yep, at least for that fight.
But I bet Miles Johns today at plus 210.
Nice.
I think Felipe Lima is a pretty good prospect. I think he's probably got a pretty bright future. You know, I like his striking diversity. I like his speed. I like his athleticism. Decent jiu-jitsu guy. Obviously, he's young. But I shouldn't say things bother me, but something that bothered me about his debut, you know, I think we both bet Naimov, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe I did, yeah.
Yeah. And I expected Naimov to win that fight via wrestling. Now, he obviously didn't win the fight, but he was basically kind of winning on the feet, or at the bare minimum going 50-50 on the feet. And
well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, it was like pretty much it was 2-0 on one card for him, 1-1 on one card,
Yeah.
and 0-2 for Lima. So yeah.
The thing is, though, Naimov's he hits hard, but he's a fucking garbage striker, man. Like, he's a really bad striker. He's got bad defense. He's got bad volume. He doesn't have good footwork. Yeah, and he was striking basically 50-50 with Lima. And, you know, I've heard people point out that was short notice, and it was, except the dude had a fight that weekend booked. He was in camp. It's not like he had a full camp. It isn't as if he got a call and was like, shit, I have a week to cut weight. He was like ready to fight that Saturday, and they're like, oh, do you want to fight in the UFC instead? And he did that. Now, obviously, game planning can change and whatnot. The point that I'm making is, though, him having that kind of a competitive striking fight with Naimov makes me think he's still pretty green. And on top of what you saw in that fight, the one time Naimov did get on top of him, he did not get up, nor did he really threaten with much off his back. And so he's fighting Miles Johns. I'm like, I don't know. Miles Johns is kind of a mid-lord. Like, I'm not a huge fan of him. You're not a huge fan of him.
No.
But he's a very meat and potatoes fighter. It's like jab, right hand, calf kick, and wrestling. That's what he's got in the table. But what he does do is his footwork's pretty good. He's pretty good at shutting down volume. Like, basically no one gets off high volume on him. He's got a good jab. He hits pretty hard. He's got good calf kicks. And he's got very good wrestling. You know, he's more tested. He's more experienced. He's beaten a much higher level of competition. You know, maybe you tell me Lima comes out here, goes crazy with the pressure, and just pumps him on the feet. I could see that happening. But I have a hard time seeing that happening, to be honest. I really do. Like, that's the problem, is it's like
I just see the volume being pretty low.
Yeah. Now, if he ups it and he's willing to walk through some shit, you know, he could probably break Johns, but he also could get hurt. Johns hits really hard. And on the other side of that, it's like if he tries to grapple, Johns is a really good counter grappler. I think he could end up on bottom. Or if Johns grapples him, I think he has upside there. I do think maybe making Lima a small favorite is fine, since I think he's on a higher trajectory, since he's very, very young, very athletic, and Johns is meat and potatoes and fairly limited. But I just trust the veteran here. You know, Miles Johns, he's been fighting pretty well lately. He's a good wrestler. He knows what he's doing. To get to plus 200 here, I think you have to get into Lima finishing this fight at like a 40% clip. But meanwhile, the over 2.5 is minus 275. So they're telling us it's going to decision almost 75% of the time, but Miles Johns only wins 33% of the time. One of those is like way off, like one of them is way,
Yep.
way, way off.
Yep.
So that's my view on it. I have John Small for a unit here. We'll see what happens. Moving on, we have got Jakar Close taking on El Fenomeno. That's what it is, right? El Fenomeno? I don't know how this guy say it. Joel Alvarez. Current price, Alvarez, big fade. Minus 450. Come back on Close, plus 350. I mean, the line's fucking gone, if we're being totally honest about this fight. But having said that, I really didn't like how Close looked in his last fight against Jacobe Silva. He's been hurt a lot in recent years. He's settling down with Mama Casey. He looks like he's doing like personal training and stuff. He's got a family. He's not fighting all that often anymore. And Close, even at his absolute apex, was kind of similar to Miles Johns, a neutralizer.
A guy with,
yeah. He was a very high level mid-lord, but he had not a lot of power. Mediocre grappler. What he was very good at was meat and potatoes, clinching guys up, landing calf kicks, picking his shots pretty well. Very smart fighter. That's how he's made a career of being a smart fighter, and I appreciate that. The thing is, when you are a guy with no real plus attributes, and then you start to get old in a hurry, that shit goes south very fast. And the back end of that Silva fight scared the shit out of me. Close has never had a gas tank issue before in his career, and it looked bad there. He looked slow there, I thought. And on the other side, you have Alvarez, and there's a lot that I don't like about Joel Alvarez. I think he's got pretty bad defense. He's obviously a terrible defensive wrestler. Good guard, a lot of volume on the feet, but he's got big defensive holes. The thing is, the guy is an offensive supernova. Like, all he does is put offense out there, and he won't stop coming until someone is dead. And that is the exact kind of guy that I don't want Jakar Close fighting at this point. A guy that, I want him fighting someone who's going to give him an out fight where he can mix it up and make it dirty. Can he make it dirty with Joel? Maybe. But Joel is going to force him to dig deep here. And I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it and I should be betting Close, but I kind of think Close is at the end of the end of his journey here in the UFC, and I just don't really want to be betting on him at that point. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think he is toward the end of that journey, and I think it's a pretty good matchup for Joel, as indicated by the line here. I think Joel does find a finish, like you had mentioned. Guy's an offensive dynamo.
Yeah.
Just all offense, no defense. And I think in a fight against Close, who historically and even in this fight specifically, I don't think he's got a ton of finishing upside. Yeah, I think Joel probably pumps him on the feet, which is interesting, though. The KO isn't the KO is almost 3-1, and his sub's plus 150.
That's I don't think he's going to sub Close.
Right, and I get your pick and your poison there with a big favorite and method of victory, but I think KO should be almost dead even with sub, maybe a little bit wider.
Very same to most better. I mean, yeah, but I think there's levels of bad defense, right?
Right.
Like Joel Alvarez has no defense, basically.
Yeah.
He's very
easy to get Chris Moutinho.
Yeah. From Chris Moutinho to Israel Adesanya, that's the scale. I missed one, I just realized, and I'm going to start it with you here, Lags. We got Sean Woodson taking on Fernando Padilla. Current price, Woodson minus 155. Comeback Padilla plus 135. Battle of the Giants here. What do you think?
Yes, it is Battle of the Giants. And not to, poo-poo on, I think, what is the community dog of the week in Padilla, but I almost think
I'll poo-poo on it.
I think Woodson I think Woodson more or less is going to stick and move around him to a clean decision here. I know Woodson historically, again, doesn't have a ton of finishing upside, but I think in this kind of a fight, I think Padilla is just going to struggle against a much more and better technical striker in Woodson.
Yeah, I'm torn between laying the minus 155 and waiting for live. If it comes into minus 135, I would definitely bet Woodson at that point. I think Woodson deserves to be a slight to moderate favorite in this fight. He's more tested. He's not quite more experienced. He's got a lot more UFC experience. I think his volume is more reliable. His cardio is more reliable. I've seen a lot of talk about, Woodson having to deal with size parity for once, but it's Padilla has to deal with size parity for once. He's bigger than everybody he fights. And Woodson is bigger than him. He's never fought someone as big as Woodson. So I think that cuts both ways. I don't mind Padilla. He's a decent boxer, picks his shots well, good power, kind of a slick submission game. But I bet him big in his last fight against Luis Ponduelo, and we bet him by sub. That was a nice spot. But the fight before that, everybody seems to have forgotten about, where Kyle Nelson back-footed him for 15 minutes. That Kyle Nelson, of all people, just played the back foot and out-volumed him en route to a unanimous decision. That's pretty bearish to me. This guy, believe it or not, Padilla is 2-5 in decisions in his career, compared to Sean Woodson, who is 8-0 in decisions in his career. Woodson, I think people have concerns about Woodson's shin because of the Saldana fight, but other than that fight, we haven't really seen anything like that throughout his career. I'm inclined to chalk it up to being a one-off. Not that I would say he's super durable, but we've seen Woodson get in some scraps before and be fine. I think he's the better boxer. I think he's actually the better kicker here than Padilla is. I think if either of them was to get top time, I actually think it would be Woodson. I'm not sure that would be. I think it might be ill-advised, since Padilla's got a decent jiu-jitsu game off his back. But we've seen Woodson wrestle when he thinks he needs it in the past. I don't know. I feel like Woodson's a pretty good fighter. I think he's probably top 15 to 20 in this division. And Padilla, he's got good tools, but he's shown, he KO'd Julian Erosa in round 1, which is like, that's how you beat Julian Erosa, right? You knock him out in the first couple minutes of the fight. And he KO'd he submitted Luis Ponduelo, who is horrible. I think there's still a lot of questions about Padilla, both about his output and about his gas. He looked pretty tired against Kyle Nelson at a pace that wasn't that hot. And Woodson, I know what I'm getting from him. He's going to throw high volume. He's going to throw with intent. He's going to hit the body. He's going to grapple if he needs to. That's the kind of guy I want to back. Like I said, at minus 155, I might pass and just try to get on him live. But if it gets down to the minus 135 range, I'll take a shot at Woodson here. Moving on. We have got Michael the Menace Johnson taking on Ottman as Zitar. Current price, Johnson is minus 220. Come back on a Zitar plus 185. I took Johnson at minus 170. I think the current price is fine. I think Zitar is absolute trash, and I think Michael Johnson should beat his fucking ass however he wants to. Obviously, it's Michael Johnson, so, things can always go more volatile than they should. But I bet Johnson big in his last fight, and I said the same thing there that I'm going to say now. Everybody talks about Darius Flowers like, oh, what if he grapples Michael Johnson, or Michael Johnson slips on banana peels? It's just like Michael Johnson is so much better at every aspect of MMA than Darius Flowers. It would be really hard for him to slip on a banana peel here, and that's how I feel here. Like, yeah, he got knocked out 2 fights ago by CDF, and that seems to be what sticks in everybody's brain. But he got clipped flush on the chin by an overhand. And the only other time he's been knocked down in the last 10 years was by Josh Emmett at 145. Like, Michael Johnson is not a chinny guy. Ottman Zitar might be a chinny guy. Michael Johnson's got way better cardio. Ottman Zitar has no cardio. Michael Johnson is the way better wrestler. Ottman Zitar doesn't have much wrestling. Michael Johnson has faster hands, higher output. He's better at everything. And if it wasn't for the fact that it is Michael Johnson, I'd be saying minus 220 was value. I think he's going to handle business here. I think this should be Michael Johnson pretty easily. What do you think, Lex?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the last fights I taped. I'm pretty much just because, I thought the big chalk on Johnson is completely deserving. Like, to me, Ottman, as you mentioned, he's a bum. He's a fraud. Like, this guy's got power early, and that's about it. Guy's got no cardio, got no defense. He got poor wrestling, too. Not that would matter.
Dude, does he even have, that much power, though? So he knocked out Timo Packalin and Kama Worthy, who have 2 of the worst chins in the history of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, he could knock out Michael Johnson. Don't get me
wrong.
Yeah, but I think,
could.
But Johnson, to your point, minus 225.
Not Conor McGregor, though.
Probably value. No.
In terms of power, no.
But no, I think Michael Johnson 70% is fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. Moving on, we got Navajo Sterling making his UFC debut, actually, at 5-0 out of Australia. He's taking on Tokos. Current price, Sterling, minus 800. Come back on Tokos, plus 550. Any thoughts from you here, Legs?
Yeah, again, one I spent limited tape on. But, this fight's not the spot, but I don't think this Sterling guy's very good at all, to be honest with you. But I think Tokos is just very easy to be hit. He's a brawler. He's going to come forward, try to throw some volume, but I think he's just going to be there to be hit, and I think Sterling can't finish him on the feet.
Yeah, the best case for Tokos is maybe he can grapple and get Sterling down and do some work there. Yeah. I guess that's possible. It's enough. I'm surely not.
He might try too early here.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's going to. I can't imagine. If he comes out and strikes with him, he's going to get knocked out pretty quickly, I think. But how much success will he have? I don't think he's that good at grappler, so probably not that much success. I mean, he
Right.
could though. That's his upside in this fight. Is maybe it turns out that Sterling is just a zero in the grappling. But I think Sterling. I think it's pretty obviously a setup fight by the UFC, and I think this is a pretty easy fight for Sterling. The one thing I'm kind of interested in, curious your take here, but it's juicy. The knock goes the distance is minus 260 though, and that feels like it should be wider to me. Feels like it should be a decent bit wider. I really have a hard time picturing Tokos staying alive on the feet with Sterling for 15 minutes. And conversely, if Tokos is winning this fight, I'd imagine he's going to have an opportunity to finish Sterling on the ground. You know?
Yeah, no, I don't hate that. And actually, what was interesting too, maybe I'd look into this later after the show, but that parlayed up with the Alvarez fight to not go the distance. Now, that is only like at minus 200, which to me seems a bit short again, because, I mean, you could say, again, Close doesn't have a ton of finishing upside, but Alvarez is there to get cracked as well. Alvarez, most of his wins, again, inside the distance.
Yeah, but Close has only been finished once in his career. You know, it's.
Yeah.
I do agree. He is probably like primed to hit that point in his career when he's going to start getting finished a lot more often if he keeps
Yeah.
fighting. So, but yeah, I was
It's
thinking
interesting.
about
I'll look
using
at
this
it.
as a parlay piece because I'm pretty
Yep.
confident this should be wider. I am. Moving on, though, we have got Daniel Marcos taking on Adrian Yanez. This is a really fun one. Current price, Marcos minus 225. Comeback on Yanez plus 190. What do you think, Legs?
It is a fun one, but I kind of think Marcos is deserving of like a pretty large-ish favorite. Like maybe not this wide at 225, but to me, like maybe minus 185. Like to me, that seems fine to me because I think on the feet, I just feel like Yanez is going to have a hard time finding Marcos. Marcos has some good footwork. I know his volume's not great, but he's got big power. Yanez pretty hittable himself. It's an interesting fight for sure, but I think Marcos is a pretty deserved favorite here.
Um, I'm having a hard time putting a number on this fight, honestly,
Yeah.
because I think Marcos has the much more diverse arsenal of the two. That's for sure. But at the same time, if they're in the pocket, I know Yanez is hittable as fuck, but like Yanez is a much slicker counterboxer or much slicker boxer than Marcos is. You know, like in the pocket, I think he's going to have a fair amount of success in this fight. What I'm having trouble putting my finger on is how big the leg kicks for Marcos will be. Obviously, Jonathan Martinez finished him with leg kicks, but Jonathan Martinez is probably the heaviest kicker in the UFC. I just can't put a ton of stock into that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It really just depends. Like, is Marcos going to stick and move? Like, is that going to be the game plan? Maybe he can
Good.
do that effectively, but I don't think Inez is that easy to outmaneuver. And I think at some point Marcos is going to have to exchange with him. So, or I think he's going to have to often. And I actually like Inez in those exchanges. So I'm kind of tempted on the Inez side. What I did bet though is goes to, or over minus 140 to win a unit and a half. I think they're both really durable. I know Yanez got finished by Martinez and Font, but I mean Font he ate a flush uppercut that was vicious to put him out in that fight. And Martinez, I really don't think, even if Marcos has big success with the calf kicks, I'd be shocked if he finishes him with them. Legitimately shocked.
Agreed. Yeah.
You know, Yanez has fought other guys who calf kicked before, and the only guy to ever damage him like that was Martinez. Could they? I mean, either could knock each other out, obviously, but they both seem really durable to me. I really think both of these guys can take a shot, and I think if Marcos is fighting optimally, like I said, his game plan is probably going to be to play on the outside, you know, and try to play that kind of fight and see if he can, you know, avoid big exchanges with Yanez. So like, yeah, I like the over here. I made it about minus 180. Yeah, I'm on the over. I don't know if I'll get to a side here. If I do, it'll be Inez. I can't minus 225 with Marcos. Is crazy to me, but
Tough.
yeah. Moving on. Great fight. Dustin Jacobe, Vitor Patrino. Current price, Vitor Patrino, large fave, minus 330. Comeback on Jacobe, plus 270. There's a part of me that wants to take the swing on Jacobe here, but I don't think his chin was ever particularly great.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably getting worse. I also feel like I think Petrino will be able to get takedowns here fairly easily. Having said that, though, I don't think he's going to hold Jacobe down. Like, Jacobe does proactively get back to his feet, and if he does kind of pursue that kind of an aggressive game plan, it could tire him out. What scares me about this fight is I just feel like the hardware is so different between the two. Like, Patrino hits really fucking hard. He's young. He's in his prime. And Jacobe, he's got okay power, but what bothers me is he fights with his hands down all the time. And like if you throw more than one shot at him, like you can get to his chin pretty easily. And it's just I just feel like Patrino has so much more critical hit equity and so much more KO equity than Jacobe does, on top of having all the grappling upside. I can picture Jacobe fighting competitively here because I do think while they're at distance, Jacobe is the better striker who will likely land more volume. The much better striker, in my opinion. I just think Patrino is going to find a home for shots at some point, and I think when he does, he's probably going to hurt Jacobe. So yeah, I don't. I feel like Jacobe is on the downswing here, and I don't really want to back him. And I think Patrino has his flaws, but he's got so many physical advantages and the grappling advantage here. It's really tough to not line him a decent sized favorite. So I'm probably going to pass unless it keeps blowing out. What do you think?
I think Patrino, big fave is fine. To a lot of the points that you had mentioned, like just physicality edge, grappling edge, finishing upside edge here against Jacobe. To your point, I think Jacobe could have competitive moments. Obviously, at distance here, much better striker.
Well, he's got to outstrike him, I think.
The question is just how long it's going to stay there, and I just don't know if it's going to stay there that long.
Or even if it does, it could be a Metafield. It could easily be a Metafield situation.
Bigger
where
power
he just
shots,
gets hurt.
swinging rounds. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that's happened to him a couple times now. So yeah, I'm with you. Next fight of the night. This one could go either way. It could be a really boring one or it could be a really exciting one. We got Manel Kape taking on Bruno Silva. Current price, Kape minus 365. Comeback on Silva plus 300. What do you think here, Lex?
I think it's probably going to be a stinker in some degrees, just because in all Manel Kape fights, the guy just doesn't really throw strikes. And, seeing him at 4-1 is kind of a little uneasy. But at the same time, I think Bruno Silva is pretty easy to find on the feet. I think Kape can easily find him on the counter. And I think Kape can have a ton of wrestling success here, personally, if he tried to. I think Kape is a big fave's fine. Like, obviously there's that volume concern, but I think it should be a pretty easy matchup for him.
I think Bruno, to be competitive in this fight, needs to wrestle his ass off. I still do think Kape's game on bottom is pretty suspect, and Bruno's a pretty good grappler. So, not a great wrestler, but a pretty good grappler. But, if he came out and shot 10, 15 takedowns, I think he'd be live to win this fight because, he might only need to convert 3 or 4 of those to win the fight. But that's not generally his game. And on the feet, I think Kape's got a huge edge, in my opinion. Yeah. He's got a big speed edge, big athleticism edge, big power edge, big defense edge, on top of which Bruno's best weapon on the feet are his calf kicks and Kape's a southpaw, so they're probably not going to be that available to him. I think Kape should be able to line up his power shots pretty easily on the feet and land them. I know there's always the risk Kape does nothing, but he tends to do nothing against guys that fight like outstrikers, because he's wanting to counter. Bruno doesn't really have the ability to outfight against a southpaw, I don't think. He's going to have to come into Kape's range here, and I think when he does, he's going to get cracked over and over. I wouldn't be shocked if Kape knocks out Bruno. I felt like Durden pumping Bruno on the feet the way he was before the KO last fight is pretty fucking bearish for this kind of a fight. So, yeah, look, Bruno, if he's grappling his ass off from minute one, I think can win this fight. And he's probably, and I shouldn't even say probably, I think he is value if he comes out with that game plan. I just don't know whether or not that's going to happen. And I think Kape, he's obviously younger and on the better trajectory of the two. He's a much more talented fighter of the two and a much more athletic. This is not – maybe this is the time you want to fade Kape, but I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like there are a number of other guys I'd rather, try to fade Kape with than Bruno Silva. Yeah. I think Kape should handle business personally.
So, John, interesting question for you. So I got this in my DMs earlier about this fight in specific. What do you think about the plus 3.5 for Bruno Silva? Plus 115.
I think the same. I don't like it because I think he can get knocked out. I really do think there's a decent chance Kape knocks him out here. What is the total here? I don't think I looked at it.
It's 2.5, and I think it's juiced over, if I'm not mistaken.
Only minus 185. I was hoping they were going to be hanging like a minus 250, minus 270 there.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little tempted by Cop ITD. KO's 270. Not really. 275 for KO. It's not the best. Dogfather said Bruno decision only on MGM. That's actually not horrible, but I don't know. I think Cop's going to make pretty easy work with Bruno. Personally, is my gut here. Moving on, though, we have got Cub Swanson, Billy Quarantillo, 41-year-old ancient Cub Swanson taking on 36-year-old ancient by body Billy Quarantillo. Current price, Billy's a favorite here. He's minus 145. The comeback on Cubs plus 126. I don't know, man. I can think of a number of reasons to bet both guys. I think Cubs beyond done personally, and Billy obviously I think has the archetype to push a pace that breaks Cub and finishes him. Just with the kind of clinch work he does, the output, the pressure. And going into tape, that's what I wanted to bet. I was pretty sure I was going to bet Billy because Cub has looked totally fucking done. And then I taped it, and Billy looks pretty fucking shot too. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's in any risk of Cub coming out and wrestling him in the way like Yusuf Zalal did. That's just not Cub's game. But while they're a distance, Cub's a much better distance striker, man. He's got faster hands. He's much more precise. He's much harder to hit. Throws really good leg kicks. Like, Billy stops punches with his face and can't check kicks. The skill gap in kickboxing is just gigantic.
Yeah.
And even though I think Cub is washed, if Billy's as washed as I think he is, Cub could look like a favorite here. But to me, it's a highly volatile fight between two old guys who aren't, what they once were. And as such, I don't need to have my money on it. What do you think, guys?
I know we were chatting about this a little bit earlier today. And I don't know if I'm still going to play this angle, the one we talked about, but I think it's just an interesting angle to me is the and I completely agree with your take on that fight in general, but I like the Cub plus 5.5 minus 160. I think it's an interesting angle. So that would only lose if Billy 30-27s him on two cards or obviously finishes him. Now, obviously, to me, I think the bigger concern is the finish, but I think Cub historically is, again, pretty durable. Like, I don't see Billy finishing him in the latter half. I think the power on the feet from Cub can deter against some of that volume. And I think, like you mentioned, I think Billy's very easy to find. Cub can definitely find his shots. I think it's a pretty competitive-ish fight where I just don't see Cub getting knocked out at a high clip.
Yeah, fair enough. Valen asked if he had a favorite football team. I'm a huge Jets fan. Lag's a huge Steelers fan.
Yep. And Russ we trust, baby.
One of our teams is having a good season. One of them we're not going to
Hey, but you got the Mets, though. How about it?
I do have the Mets. Juan Soto, 15 years. I'll be 52 when his contract's up.
Unbelievable. He's going to be Bobby Bonilla. No, you'll be like 70.
I can't even talk about Bobby Bonilla. Moving on, though. We got the main event. Colby Chaos Covington taking on Joaquin Buckley. Current price, Buckley minus 265. Comeback on Colby, plus 225. What are your thoughts here, lads? Do you think Buckley's rise is going to continue, or do you like the underdog?
Well, this rounds up the third big dog on the card for me, which is usually your cup of tea and taking a page out of your book for this card. But I like Colby here in a big way. So plus 210, I have him on the money line, or plus 220, I have him on the money line, and then also plus 13.5 on a point spread. So a little weird, little odd prop out there. But that, again, like we just talked about in the last fight, so that would lose via all three cards having a 50-45 for Buckley or him finishing Colby. And to me at minus 135, me at minus 135, I mean, he's not finishing Colby, and that would be the biggest concern to me. Like, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I think, to me, Colby can push a pace in this fight in general. I think Buckley has questionable cardio. Volume's all on Colby's side. Cardio's all on Colby's side. Wrestling's on Colby's side as well. I mean, Al Hassan had success wrestling Joaquin Buckley. I like Colby in a big way.
Yeah. Many people are saying Donald Trump walked so Colby Covington could run.
He might be in attendance. Who knows?
It is MAGA season. Colby Covington is plus 225 against a guy who lost around grappling to Razak Al Hassan, against a guy who got stuck on bottom twice against Nasruddin Imavov, against a guy who was taken down by a half-dead Albert Duraev multiple times. Yeah, I love Colby here. I have 3 units on him in plus 240 range, but I honestly like that prop you mentioned. I'm getting more down on that. So I'm going to end up with like 4 or 5 units on Colby, tied to Colby in general here. I guess, look, you can look at the Leon Edwards fight and be like, okay, horrible look, Colby's washed. Except he won round 5 of that fight. Round 4 and round 3 were both competitive. He broke his foot in the first round and didn't really wrestle at all. Like, my question, and when he did start to wrestle, he started getting Leon down fairly easily. Like, my question is, like, do you think Colby Covington is just, coming out here for a paycheck, showing up to just take an easy loss, and is just not going to wrestle again? Like, that part of his career is over? Like, do you think that's what last fight indicates? Or do you think it's more likely that he broke his foot and had issues with one of the best range managers in the sport who fought an extremely disciplined game plan and just countered him when he decided to commit, and otherwise just happy to leg kick him and not commit at all? What's more likely, that Colby is just never going to wrestle again, or that the guy that shot 15 takedown attempts 2 fights ago is going to come out here and wrestle again? I think the former is a lot more
against
likely.
Against the former champion.
Yeah, and I'll say this, Colby Covington, it's a little narrative for you, but Colby Covington is a guy who has refused a million fights the UFC has offered him in the last year. And yet he accepted this one on short notice. I think it says something. He knows he's trying to take the best path to making the highest earnings possible. And he knows the best way to do that is win this and get another main event somewhere. And I think stylistically he presents a lot of problems for Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, he's got a decent sprawl first level, but if you keep shooting on this guy, he doesn't have great wrestling. And if you get him flat, he has very, very little off his back. Even in the striking, Buckley's a good striker. He's a powerful striker, but he's not high volume. This is a guy who lost the round. He had to surround to Andre Fiallo in a very recent past for striking. He tends to do that in and out thing. He's not going to be doing, the Leon thing where he's staying at the end of Colby's reach and just ripping kicks and trying to counter him. That's not Buckley's game. And if he's doing that thing where he's lunging in to try to fight Colby in the pocket, it's very, very likely to result in a grappling entanglement, which is terrible for Buckley, in my opinion. And I referenced 3 fights, but you even go further back in Buckley's career when he fought Logan Storley, and the dude just got fucking dogged for 3 rounds. I look, there is a chance that Colby is all the way done and that this price is right if that's the case. But Colby hasn't taken that much damage. He's 36. He's a fitness freak. He doesn't fight that often. I would be surprised if he's totally done here. Even on the feet, I think, the footwork difference between Leon and Buckley is night and day. Colby had a ton of trouble finding Leon on the feet. I don't think he's going to have that much trouble finding Buckley. I don't know. Lou is saying, what do I think about a live bet? Here's my problem. Other than Leon and Kamaru Usman, every guy Colby fights, he usually pumps start to finish. He comes out hot from the jump and doesn't slow down. And that's the other thing. If he comes out hot, I don't think Buckley can keep his pace for 25 minutes. No. I think the biggest question in this fight is, how often do you think Buckley finishes Colby? And personally, I don't think he finishes him that often. I said it to you earlier today. I think Buckley finish, if you're being generous, is 20% here. Literally, that's about what I think it is. Colby's got a serious beard on him. Dude has taken some hammers. The only time he got finished was by Usman, and that really was quite a poor stoppage. He wasn't even close to being out, when that fight got stopped. So I look at it, it's maybe he's done, but only one of these, there is a chance that in retrospect on Saturday night, we're like, wow, Colby should have been minus 300. That was so fucking obvious. There is no chance that we're like, wow, Joaquin Buckley should have been minus 1,000 in that fight. Huge value on minus 265. I just don't see. I agree. Even Colby from the Edwards fight, I think, is probably better than his current money line. Honestly, So
and I said this earlier today too. So obviously the biggest threat to that prop would be him, in my opinion, him knocking him out. So to me, if all 3 judges score this fight 50-45 or worse, John, for the first podcast 2025, I will be chugging a 4 Loko before the beginning of the podcast. If we get all 3 judges
50-45 for Covington or Buckley?
For Buckley or worse. Because I think the only threat to us losing that prop, if you're on it with me, is that KO.
You know what I wish we could do is do alternate spreads where it's bet Covington minus 5.5 or minus 7. Can you?
You can. I'll let you know.
Talk dirty to me, Lags. Hey, pull it up.
Oh,
I
John,
need to hear
John, you can. Oh, John, you can.
This is.
So
business just picked up.
John, Colby -5.5, +400.
What? I guess that makes sense with his line, but what does he need for that? 49-46? Like, I guess 2 49-46s.
Well, yeah, and then he would need that other card. Well, yeah.
Yeah, he would need a unanimous, but
yeah,
that's still mildly interesting. It's not as good as I was hoping, but
well, 49-46, 49-46, 2 49-46s because a 48-47, you're still good there.
But I honestly, I was talking to one of my buddies last night, and I was like, or he said, I should say, like, gun to my head, if you like put me and my family's lives on the line, and I had to pick the winner of this fight, I'd pick Colby Covington. And I was like, that says all you need to say. Like that means it's a big bet, you know? I agree with that. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
I honestly do not. I understood the Wonder Boy line because Wonder Boy was 41 years old.
And I bet Wonder Boy.
Fragile and at a grappling disadvantage. This case, Colby's the more durable fighter here. He's got the better cardio here. He's got like all the grappling upside here. He's fought the better level of competition.
And it's 5 rounds.
And it's 5 rounds, and he's plus 225. Like, what are we doing? It's fucking crazy. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he's done. But if he's done, I will sleep very comfortably at night if he gets dominated on Saturday night betting this price. I don't really care. We're betting on the side with all. Who has Colby beaten? I mean, he beat half the dos Anjos.
Masvidal.
Well,
I get it's older Masvidal. I get that, but like,
I don't know. I think people are stupid with this kind of shit, though. Like Robbie Lawler, Demian Maia, Stun Gun Kim, Max Griffin. Like, these aren't bad fighters. It's not like Jacobe Buckley has like taken out a murderer's row of killers.
And that's the thing. People will probably point to the Wonder Boy fight as like a big name on his resume. But again, you go back and look at that fight. Look at the scorecards of that fight going into the 3rd round. Wonder Boy, again, similar to what we talked about earlier. Wonder Boy up 2-0 on one card, 1-1 on one card, and it was 0-2 Buckley on another card. Again, what are we talking about? Wonder Boy was plus 190 there, and I bet him there.
Dude, he's a bigger favorite against Colby Covington by a lot than Leon Edwards was against Colby Covington. And like Leon Edwards, I think would be like minus 300 against Buckley. Like, no joke. And this makes no sense at all. People are getting way too into the favorites only win these days in MMA. And trajectory. Dude, I got something for your fucking trajectory. Colby Covington is gonna put this guy through the fucking spin cycle for 25 minutes. People aren't ready for it. Daniel Penny, Trump, Colby Covington, all happening in a 2-month period. Okay.
Hey John, you want to hear about your trajectory? Themba Gorimbo trajectory. How about that?
That's what I'm saying.
Vicente Luque. Oh, he's washed. He fucking shit on Themba Gorimbo. Choked him out inside a minute. He was the underdog. Plus 130, plus 140.
Real ones know. We got him. And that's the thing.
Crazy.
Everybody, people. It's a great point of comparison, to be honest, because like you want to fade recency bias, and everyone was fading Luque, even though 2 fights ago. He had beaten Rafael dos Anjos over 5 rounds via grappling. And yet all everybody could talk about was the quit against Jacobe Buckley. No one talked about the fight before that. He out-grappled a much better grappler than Themba Gorimbo. Here we are. All anyone's talking about is him losing to one of the best 2 or 3 welterweights in the world in a fight that was pretty competitive. And now he is a 30% implied to Joaquin Buckley. And by the way, I'm a big fan of Joaquin Buckley. I've bet him a ton. So have you. He's one of my favorite fighters. This is fucking nuts, though. You know what? Zig when they fucking zag. We're going all in on Colby here. Hopefully we close the year with a bang. We'll talk. Every year we say we're going to do an end of the year show. But I feel like we both get checked out after the season's over.
And it's tough. I mean, a lot of Christmas holiday season going on, New Year's going on.
I'm also just like for 2 weeks after MMA ends, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy not thinking about MMA for the next couple of weeks.
True.
You know?
Yeah. That's true, man.
And then by week 3, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it's 2 more weeks until he comes back. But that is what we're going to do. Trump walked out on Colby last fight. Don't you think that's going to motivate him?
Yeah.
We're going to make you have MMA great again here this weekend with Colby Covington. Chaos. Anyway, boys, that's going to do it for the show tonight. Thanks for coming out. Good luck on your bets this weekend. If you're tailing us, fuck you if you're fading us, but we still love you. But have a good one. Drop a like, subscribe, not surprise. You can follow Lags on Twitter at Danny_Lags, myself at MMA Fox. We won't be back next week since this is the end of the year. We're going to talk about end of the year show. We may. I mean, obviously, we've gotten a little fugazi the last month with what date and time we're doing this.
Yeah.
We will settle back down on a fixed time. Yeah, Pepe just said it. Check out the Fight Number Show, 9 p.m. tonight. A lot of good guys on there. Fun show. It's a great time. But we are discussing, Lads and I are in negotiations for potentially moving the show to Sunday nights starting next year. Try to get out there in front of everybody. We'll see what happens. We'll have to keep everybody informed, and Lads and I will talk and see whether or not we want to do some kind of a Christmas show. Maybe we'll wear Santa hats and make Christmas cocktails on stream.
We can do it.
You know?
We can do it.
Do the Club and Sub Award show. Maybe we'll get Luke on here.
Yeah.
Luke sitting in a desert with a
best
Santa
bets,
hat.
worst bets, things like that. That'll be fun.
We'll run the gamut. We'll run the whole thing. Yes. I'll talk to him. But all right, boys. Anyway, take it easy. Peace. We love you all.